Hi everyone, welcome back to Bernina Club. Now, as I told you last class, that I would be making this lovely coat, and this was out of your inspiration book that you got in May. So this is the one, or maybe you got it in April. And this is the lovely coat in here, and the pattern's in there. And so what I've done is I've made this out of some pure, beautiful boiled wool. And this is what it looks like all finished. And one of my daughters has scored this coat. She thinks it's pretty nice. So I'm going to show you the seams and the edges that I've done on this. Very, very easy. It's all raw edged. There is no hard work to make this. So it's very, very good. I've put little buckles on the cuffs, and this is all raw edged. So nothing's turned through. Bound buttonhole method for putting in the zips, which you've all seen me do before, and all the seams are on the outside of the coat, not turned to the inside. It also has a wonderful big hood, so it's got a lovely big hood that comes up, and yeah, it's a very, very nice coat. So a nice short coat. You could lengthen it and make it a bit longer if you wanted, but yeah, it looks very, very nice on. So this is boiled wool. So I'm just going to show you how I seamed this fabric. So the first thing you're going to do, I'm going to put, I've got black thread on, so you'll be able to see the seaming when I do it. And what you actually do is you, instead of putting the right size of your fabric together, you put the wrong size of your fabric together. So the right side of the fabric is facing out, okay? So I'm just going to make sure I've got that right. Yes, I have. And I think in the book, I think from memory, it is 10 mil seams. So I'm just going to run my, might be 1.5 actually, 1.5 seam. I'm just going to run it on the 1.5 mark. You've got all these wonderful marks on your sew plate. Now you want to have your stitch length a little bit longer than normal, because this is actually your top stitching on your garment. So I'm going to be just putting it on, I'll go 2.85 just for argument's sake, and we'll see what that looks like. So you're just making sure your wrong sides are together. Now, the main thing with this, and I will show you this if you come to here, is instead of cutting all your seams with a scissor, it would be preferable if you cut it with a rotary cutter, so that you get perfectly straight seams. So when you sew them together, you're going to get a nice finish, okay? So I've got perfectly straight seams. I've got my 1D foot on. I'm doing 1.5 seams, and I'm sewing my raw edges together. Okay, very simple. So every single seam is done exactly the same. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this the right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this seam back with my duckbill scissors to about halfway. So I'm just going to trim this one back just to about halfway to get rid of the bulk. And you can see how the duckbill scissor sits on the underneath fabric, so I can't cut the underneath fabric. And because I've cut this nice and straight, now when I fold it over, I've already got my straight edge. So I'm just going to open it out, and this is the right side of my garment, and I'm just going to get my little clover presser, and I'm just going to give it a little roll down here to flatten my seam. And believe it or not, I like to use my zip foot. So I'm just going to find my zip foot, which is number 4. So I'm just going to find my zip foot and hope that I haven't left it at work, because that would be tragic. No, here it is. So I'm just using my number 4 zip foot, and I like to top stitch with that foot. So what I do, this is the number 4 zip foot here, and all I'm going to do is put my needle position to the left, and I'm going to use that as my foot for top stitching. So I'm going to move my needle position to the left, there, and I'm going to put it on number 4. So my 4D foot is at work, so normally I would use a 4D foot, which is designed for this machine, and it's a bit bigger, but I'm just going to use this one because it's the one I've got here. So what I do is I just lay my work down, and my foot I am laying down on the right side, and I'm top stitching on the left hand side. So I'm just going to simply sew down here, get that started. Once we're ready to go, hold your thread so you've got a little bit of tension on it. Keep your work flat. Hold on to your threads till you get a little bit of fabric, and then just top stitch down the side. And this makes a really, really nice finish on your garment. There we go. Well, I think I'd lengthen that longer. That's a little bit too close. So there is the finish seaming on your garment. Okay, so that's one method. So it's all raw edged, all on the outside. The next method is, and I'll just use my scissors to cut it. And this time I'm going to do the same thing. I'll just leave this foot on and I'm going to go a longer stitch length. So I'm just going to do a seam. But this time, instead of folding it one way, I'm going to open it up and top stitch both sides open. There's my seam. And this time, still a raw edge, but I'm just going to top stitch down both sides. So you can choose the finish that you like on your garment. It's super, super, super easy. Go down the other side. Obviously I would never do it in black, but it's just so you can clearly see the seams that I'm doing, and I would make sure it's nice and even. There we go. So if you have a look, oh, beautiful straight stitching. Let's go like that. So you could do it with your seams both going out and top stitching that way, or you can have it all top stitched to one side. And that's how I did all my seams. Okay? The next thing you need to learn is how to do your little tabs. Now these are what I've used on my sleeve here, and on my belt, and on my belt loops. So depending on the width that you want, I've just got my little piece of fabric here, and all I did is I pressed to the center my seam, and I did the same to my belt. Pressed to the center, folded it all the way over, put a clip in it, and hold it with a clip, and then fold this one and hold it with a clip. And this time I'm going to use my number 10 edge stitch foot. So your number 10 edge stitch foot, or your number 10, this is a D foot, it has the bar through the middle, and I'm going to leave my needle position to the left, and I'm just going to top stitch all around the edges, even the folded edge. So I'm going to go around each and every edge. So I'll leave this on and tell the machine I've got the 10D foot on. There we go. And fold this side as well. So I'm just going to start on this edge, and using the bar, I'm putting my fabric up against the bar, and I'm just top stitching. I might bring my top stitch over a little bit so it's more, that's better, closer to the edge. Take these out as you go. You really don't even need to press it, because wool fabric is very, very easy to hold, and it stays. It just doesn't stretch. Come up to your corner, and this time you're going completely across the end, and then you're going down the other side. So your bar of your foot is pushed up against your fabric. I'll just unpick that little stitch where I decided to go closer to the edge. So have a go. The pattern is all in the book and you just trace out your size. And this size I've used for this garment is a size 40. And it seems to fit a 12, a 14 and a size 16. So it's quite a multi-size. We tried it on all the different size ladies at work and it fitted a 12, a 14 and a 16. So if I was making one for myself, I'd probably do the size 36. Okay, and that is how you do your tabs and your belt. So just like that. Okay, so it's very, very, very easy. So it's a lovely garment to make. It's a simple garment to make. Now, then I decided, what if I wanted to embellish? So what I've done here is I've drawn a design onto some tearaway and I've put it on the back of some fabric and done some fancy stitches. So I'm just going to quickly show you the 3 feet you can use for this. And I have started to finish my bird. And so what I've done here is I've drawn the design onto my fabric on the back and then stitched through, and now I'm working on the front. So I'll just quickly show you how to do that. Here's my tearaway or my cutaway I use for this. I'm just going to draw a design. Oop. Just to show you, I'm going to put that design on the back of my work, which is that way, and I'm just going to stitch around this with a straight stitch. So I'm not doing anything hard. I'll just stitch around it with a straight stitch. And you can use any foot for this, but I just want to show you. So I'm just going to straight stitch around there, and all I'm doing is transferring the design from this side to this side. That's all I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just going to straight stitch and I'll clear that straight stitch, and I'm just going to go around the edge. A number 20 foot would be good for this, but I'm just using the foot that I've got in front of me, which is actually the number 21. Remember, when you're doing this, no one has any idea of what you started with, so don't be too fussy about your exact design you're doing, because it doesn't really matter, because no one can see what you drew on there. Actually, I'll go up and do a point so I can show you a point. Okay, so all I want to do is transfer the design from here to the right side. Oops, my thread. Trim my threads. And there, take that black one out, and there you can see my design. Now what I decided to do, because I love, love, love using these variegated threads, is I just cut this thread and, whoops, pulled that thread there. Right, I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to pop on this thread, pop that on. Remember to have your foot up when you're stitching, and you can choose any fancy stitches and do your fancy stitch work on the front of your wool fabric before you do any other wool work. So the foot I would use would be an open toe foot, so I can see where I'm going. And if you've got a 20 or a 20D or a 20C, that is the foot you can use, because it's all open at the front. So this one happens to be a 20D. Now when I was playing with the designs, because I was doing a bird, I decided that using some of these designs that go on the outside and then covering them with the wool was quite fun. So play with your designs and see the results that you get. So I'm just going to put on that stitch that I've actually done. Now it is actually the toweling stitch. So it's going to sew to the left, and I'm going to follow my line. Oops, tell the machine what foot I've got on. So you watch what happens here. I am going to follow my line, and then it's going to stitch out to the side. So that's quite a fun stitch that I can do. Now remember, when you're doing this sort of work, if you put on single pattern, you will never go wrong. So I put pattern 1, so it's only going to do one pattern and stop. Then you can regroup. Move your needle across, move your foot across. I'm using my knee control, lifting it up and then rearranging and then stitch. So this is how you'll get a perfect curve or a perfect point. Okay, once you've got it in position, you can do that bit fast because you know it's going to stop. And this is how you get perfect finishes, just one stitch at a time. Okay, that's just one stitch you could use. There's many, many stitches we can use. So I'll just go on and pick a couple more just to show you. I'll go into the ones that are crisscrossy ones. Oh look, here's a heart. And single pattern. Nothing stopping you from doing a heart. Oh, now I need to go closer to the edge. So let's just do one of those. Play around with your machines and your stitches. So I'll try again. Line up your left hand side with your line of stitching. Turn your work, line it up. So anything that's going to the right hand side I'm using. Turn your work. And that's how fun it is. Now these threads I'm using are Gutermann threads, and they're beautiful variegated threads. And there's the results you can get from having a bit of fun with variegated threads. Now once you've done that, the next step is you can sew around it with wool. And we've got 3 feet that I can show you. So the first foot is foot number 21. Now number 21, you thread the wool through the top and you stitch over the wool. Okay, so I will just put on a colour that you can see and I'll stitch over the wool. So thread the wool down through the top of the foot. So you can do this with the 3 different feet, number 21, and you use the feed dogs up for number 21, or you can use number 43, which is this one, and the feed dogs will be down and this will be freehand. Or you can use your 72 ruler foot, and we put these little attachments on where the wool feeds through, and you can do it freehand and with rulers. So there's a lot of options, but I'm just going to show you this one. Take this foot off, pop this on. I can leave that thread on, that'll be quite pretty. And tell the machine what foot you've got so it knows what you're doing. So that's foot 21. There we go. And now I can just straight stitch this on. I don't need to use any fancy stitches. I'm going to clear it and take it off single pattern and just straight stitch. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my thread through to the bottom. There we go. And now all I do is top stitch. I'm just going to go here where I've got nothing just to show you. So you just start sewing and you're watching where your stitching line was, and that is how you sew. Needle down when you turn a corner. So your line that you've already had makes it easy because you can see where you're going. Okay, and you really can't tell how you've sewn it on. So you're going over that line you've already done. Isn't that simple? You don't even have to hold this up, I just find it easier to. Okay? Now, Bernina's very clever because they also have a place where your thread, your wool can go through. This is for the next foot, but I'll just show you. Your wool can feed through here for when you're doing freehand, and you could leave it on for this foot. I'll just see if it works. Yeah, that still feeds just as nicely on your feed dogs up foot. So it's a handy little gadget. It's a little piece of wire, and that fits on all the big machines, and you also get a small bit of wire that fits on the smaller machines. Now when you come to join it up, just simply put it together. Maybe do 1 stitch back stitch, take it out of your work, and you thread that down through. So there you can see I have just straight stitched the wool on my wool fabric, covering the line that I did. Now if you want to do it freehand, all you do is put number 43 foot on and drop your feed dogs down. So I'm dropping my feed dogs down, and when you buy the 43 foot you get these little attachments, and you get this little piece of wire, hopefully you can see, and what you do is you thread your wool through your wire. One moment please while I get it through the wire. There we go. So here's your wool. You thread it through the wire. You thread it through here. I'll take the foot off and show you. Here's my foot. You thread it, I'll go like this so you can see, through the side of the foot, like that. And then you thread it down through the foot. There's a hole down through the foot, like that. Okay, so that's how you need, and then put this wire in the safest place possible because they go missing. I've lost a few. And I'm just going to put it on there so I can find it. Okay, so now thread your thread back through, and now I'll show you how to do it freehand. Okay, so just make sure that this isn't caught anywhere. I'm just going to move that all out of the road, and now I can do it freehand. So when you're doing freehand, make sure you pick up your bobbin thread. So I'm just doing one stitch back up, lift it up, looking for a pin, pick up my bobbin thread. There we go. Now I'm going to just start in one place and knot it off. My feed dogs, did I drop them down? Yes, I did. I don't need to have any stitch length on because my feed dogs are dropped down, and I'm doing foot number 43. So I'll just tell the machine. Here we go. So now all I do, watch this, I just freehand. So I can go anywhere I like. And my foot is going with me. My wool is going with me. Isn't that great? I have shown you this before, but because I was doing the wool, I thought I would show you again because it's just so much nicer on the wool fabric. Now this is just tapestry wool. So tapestry wool is only $2 a skein, and we have every colour under the sun. So we still sell that at work. You can do points. When you're doing points, come up to the point, hold, go. Come up to the point, hold, go. Don't just try and do it fast or you'll miss the point. Isn't that amazing? So, oh, my thread broke. So that just shows you how easy it is to do freehand with wool. Okay? I love it. I think it's great. I'll show you that. And I've done the colour so you can see where you're going. Yep. So there's the two versions there. Sewing with the feed dogs up and then sewing with the feed dogs down, your wool embroidery. And the last one is your 72 foot, which is your ruler foot. So you can actually ruler work with this. But these little attachments that you get have holes in the bottom. Don't know if you can see that. And they clip on to, they clip on really well onto the bottom of the foot. So this time I can pop this onto here. This is just another option. Oh, actually I need to put the wool on first. I can pop this onto here. See, I need my wire again. Lucky I haven't lost it. And I'm going to leave it on my feed dogs down and do exactly the same, but if I wanted to, I could do ruler work, which I'm not going to do today because I've shown you it, but just so you know, you can use this for ruler work. So this time, the wool is going down through the hole of the foot. If I show you like that, you can see it, no? Like that. If the wool's too thick, don't use it. So there's 3 different sizes of these little attachments. So the bigger one, the better. All right, finer wool, finer thread, or wool, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to tell it that I've got my 72 foot on. And now I'm going to do the same, exactly the same. I'll go on to this one. Exactly the same. Feed dogs down, but if you just happen to have this foot, you can just buy the attachments. Very, very good. So again, bring your bobbin thread up. Lost my bobbin thread. So have some fun, because all of these things, if you've got these feet, you might as well use them. So just have some fun. And, oh, that's right, my top thread broke. That's why my bobbin thread's not coming up. Remember, my top thread broke somewhere. Found it. That's why it wasn't coming up. So foot up, and there we go. So with this thread, when you're doing freehand, you do need to go a bit slower because it's a softer thread. It's a 30 weight or 40 weight? 30 weight cotton. So I do need to go a little bit slower with this thread than my way of sewing. That's better. There we are. Now we've got them both under. So I've still threaded it through here because I've got that on my machine, and I'll leave that on my machine. You get 2 of these when you buy the foot 43, and one is for this machine and the other one is for the smaller Berninas, and they just clip on to your machine, and the smaller machines, they clip onto your thread cutter. So this, oh, I've got a bit of tear away there. So now I'm just going to start sewing. And that's not pulling. I'll just see if that hole is too, oh no, there we go. Just needed to start it. So I'll just cut the excess wool. So you're going to do exactly the same as what you've done last time, and it's just going to feed, but you're using the ruler foot, which means you've got a little bit more option because you can use your rulers. So whether you're using, I am going to use a bigger hole. Look, that one's a little bit small. See how the wool's not feeding evenly? So I need to go to one with a bigger hole. This one here. So I will need to put on, I'll show you, this one here with a bigger hole to use that thicker wool. But the method's exactly the same. Okay? So if I was going to take this off, I would just cut it here. And I would clip this off. Yes. And I would thread that down through. Oh, yep. Where did I put my little wire? I would thread that down through that hole of that foot. Which one was it, guys? This one or this one? It's like that game where you spin things around. I'll have a look on the back. Okay, small, medium, large. Small, medium, large. Pull it down through. I'll go backwards and I'll clip it up under here. And push. Make sure you put on a good size needle because you're feeding through the wool. So I would probably put a 90, even a top stitching needle sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, but just make sure you select the right needle as well. Let's see if that's better. Oh, so much easier. That's better. That's feeding really, really well now. Just watch that thing. So yeah, you can go anywhere. Exactly the same as what I've just done. I'll go around here. Now, if you want to, I'll just show you. You can come back and then you can go back right beside it and make your work thicker. Go up, come back. So you're colouring in with wool. Have fun. It's good fun. Go back on the inside if I want to, fill it in, fill in that gap. You can't really make mistakes because it's just, as long as this is feeding nice and even, you can pretty much sew anywhere. Obviously you'd have matching thread. Okay, so if I want to, oh, there's no tear away behind here, so it's not feeding very well. You definitely need tear away on the back. So see how I missed the corner? So when you're coming up to do corners, you go up, you pause, then you go across. So you catch the corner. Pause, go up, pause, go across. Don't just go like that, and I'll show you why in 1 minute. I'll show you. If you go too fast, you miss the corner. So when you come up, you pause. You go down, you pause. You go across, you pause. You come up, you pause. Don't just go up and down. That's when people miss. All right. So that's just a bit of an insight into foot number 43, which comes with these for threading your wool and the wire. Foot number 21, that you thread the wool down through the top and your feed dogs are up. And if you've got a ruler foot 72, you can buy added extras of 3 different sizes of these for couching. So these are called couching inserts, and they come 3 in a pack. All right. So I hope that's given you a little bit of inspiration. And as it is winter, it is a really good idea to be sewing winter garments. And I'll just give you another little bit of a close-up, because obviously this is a work in progress. So this is just some fancy stitches I've done with the variegated thread, and then I'm putting the wool around the outside to make my bird. And this will just end up a little cushion, and it'll probably be cut in the shape of the bird. Probably end up with one of the grandchildren, I would say. So just remember that these books have all of the patterns. So you want to utilize these books. They're absolutely brilliant. And this one was the inspiration book that I gave you. I think I would like to say April, May I gave you that book. Still available if you haven't got one. So happy sewing. Happy stitching with your wool fabric, as well as doing some fun wool embroidery. And remember that these wools that I've used are just our tapestry wools, and you get 8 meters for $2. So they're very, very reasonable, and we've got every colour under the sun at work. And I will see you next month.